Welcome back to another episode live here at Barbican Center in London of Business of Cannabis at Cannabis Europa. I'm your host, Shabazz Karavarani, and we have an excellent special guest here. Olga, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Olga, how do I pronounce your full name? I just had it, and I didn't want to mess it up. Stefanishya. Olga Stefanishya, member of parliament, Ukraine, and we're going to learn all about, Olga's journey today, a little bit more about policy and how things are building in Ukraine, some different perspectives. But let's start with your journey. I mean, you have quite the journey to get here. Tell us a little bit more about who you are.
I live in Ukraine. I'm a member of Ukrainian Parliament, and I actually came here especially for this conference to talk to people around the world. But it was not an easy journey because Ukrainians cannot fly. We have only missiles flying over our sky and anti-raid systems because. Ukraine has war, and everybody knows that, but not everybody understands how difficult it is for Ukrainians now even to come to Europe, because I have to take a train or go by car for a day to reach my flight. And I flew from Poland on the plane because there are no planes in Ukraine. But I also would like to thank to all people actually who are listening to us, because these are the people of the UK, people of European Union, US and other countries who help Ukraine to fight with Russia. Believe me, your help is very important and essential for Ukrainian people.
Well, that genuinely, unless you hear it from you don't realize how challenging it is, right? Especially yes. Like I'm from Canada, I'm not around it every day. So the fact that you made the journey here, and that must have been a wild journey. So you drove from the Ukraine into Poland?
Yes.
And then
yes.
you flew from Poland?
Yes, it's around 12 hours by car. It's very exhausting, and not everybody can understand how difficult it is for all of us now.
No, absolutely not, unless you've lived it. And so we really appreciate you being here with us and giving us the time to learn more, because as I understand it, Ukraine is doing some very interesting things as it relates to, cannabis. And so curious, as a member of parliament today, what is the conversation like as it relates to, cannabis as a medicine and cannabis as an industry?
Yeah, you are right that Ukraine is doing interesting things, even having such terrible events which are happening in our country. And we are continuing moving to the European Union. And I know that today we have very good news about Ukraine to move forward to European Union. But we also do lots of things in healthcare and other reforms which help us to actually be closer to Europe, and many European countries legalized medical cannabis long ago, and Ukraine did it last year. At the end of last year, our parliament voted for the law which allows medical cannabis to be used, to be cultivated, imported, exported, and actually, I'm very proud of this achievement in Ukraine. I think it's a very important thing for Ukraine, because taking into account that we have a war, we have lots of people who have cancer, who have epilepsy and other diseases, where cannabis can help a person to live normal life. But we also have lots of people, these are millions of people who suffered from war. We are talking about different psychological issues, PTSD, and also about pain and trauma. And our soldiers who are on the front line or who are already in civilian life because they had some traumas, they really need these drugs. And they were big supporters of this law.
That's incredible. And that's very practical use cases for medicinal cannabis. How is the country? What is the sentiment in the country amongst healthcare practitioners as it relates to cannabis? Is there, acceptance? Are you starting to see it in kind of daily medicinal practices? What does that look like right now?
Well, first of all, I would like to really thank the opponents of this law. We had a couple of politicians who were against this law, and they really helped us a lot to raise the opinion. And as soon as we had some problems with this law in the parliament, we had a very big wave of media events, of patients community raising and talking to people, raising their awareness. So I think that these 7 years of advocating for medical cannabis law helped us to educate a lot of people. And I would say that mass media in Ukraine is fully supportive of medical cannabis. But we need to work more with doctors now and patients communities as well. And we are now actually launching the programs for doctors and also some civil society movements who are launching programs for patients. Many patients left Ukraine when there was invasion of Russia. And they already are treated abroad by medical cannabis, and they're also our agents inside of medical and patients' communities to educate people about that.
So these patient communities, there's obviously building quite substantially. There's a lot of patients within these communities. How are they finding? I know there's education going towards doctors, and there's these civil associations. But today, how does one learn about medicinal cannabis within the Ukraine, and let's hypothetically say someone's in need of it from a psychological disorder from the war or PTSD or suffering from even physical pain and ailment. Like how do they go about getting access to medicinal cannabis today?
It's very important to say that medical cannabis is now not available yet in Ukraine because we approved the law at the end of February, and it will step into force on the 16th of August.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Now, yes, thank you. Because the law is a framework, but we have to approve detailed government acts, including guidelines for the doctors, types of medicines available, licensing procedures, and they are now in the process of development. I'm actively involved in this process, working with the Ministry of Health of Ukraine to make them as friendly as possible.
And you used to be the Deputy Minister
Yes.
of Health, right? So now in your role as MP, what experiences and skills do you lean on from your previous roles to make sure that this policy is rolled out in the right time frame and in the best way possible? How do you start to champion that and build that policy internally?
Well, very good thing for me is that I'm acquainted with all the stakeholders in this area. So
Yeah.
I perfectly know how the registration system works, how the licensing system works, and I know the stakeholders. We have State Expert Center, which is responsible for registration procedures. By the way, I hope that registration of medical cannabis will take not more than 30 days. So we are working on the framework to let it happen. We will also have a possibility to register not only finished products but also active pharmaceutical ingredient, and also we will allow production of drugs in the pharmacies, which is very important for the access. And we also have State Service for Medicines and Drugs Control, which will be responsible responsible for licensing. So I'm personally talking to them almost every week, checking on their progress, and I would really say that this law, taking into account the difficulties of its advocating through the parliament, it's a very important law for the country. And by the way, our President Zelensky was highly supportive of it, and I think with his political will, it was possible to do it. So I think the government is also eager to do it as much effective as possible, and also as much transparent as possible, because for me it's important that there are no bribes, no corruption, and this process is very clear for everyone.
Are there any countries that you're looking at as models, or taking bits and pieces of these models, or is it kind of brand new?
I think it's not correct to have some country as a model, because each country has challenges and has very good things implemented. So for us, it will be our way, but we will try to take best practices from each country. I have been to Germany to see how it works there. There are very good things, but there are things which will not work for Ukraine. For instance, they limit the number of producers and cultivators. For us, limiting something means corruption. So I think that we should have our way in implementing this law.
I love that answer, and I'm very, very excited to see the Ukraine market roll out. So last question for you, Olga, is when you look at where you've worked hard, you've advocated in parliament, you've got executive sponsorship from Zelensky, you're rolling out a program with doctors, you have a patient community. It sounds like you're doing all the things the right way. And I come from a medical market in Canada, right? So I got to see what a burgeoning market looks like. In 2 years from now, what's the vision that you're trying to achieve? What all these kind of pieces are in place, the infrastructure's there. What does 2 years from now look like in the Ukraine medical market?
In 2 years, I think Ukraine should have a reimbursement system for at least military people, maybe cancer already, and we should have actually a couple of million of people having medical cannabis, because in reality it's up to 6 million people who are in need of medical cannabis. Not all of them will be able to allow buying these drugs for themselves. So I think that governmental support in this issue will be very important. So I see that during these 2 years we elaborate as much possibilities for business, for investors to come to Ukraine, to have national production of medical cannabis, and have imported drugs as well, and quite nourished market in order to launch, first of all, some research on cannabis, because Ukraine is a very wide field for research, and then reimbursement system in 2 years.
So that, I know I said last question, but I got one more question because you just brought it up, and it's very interesting. So with the political climate as it is, but also with the simultaneous pending cannabis climate, what does that, you mentioned Ukraine is open for business, import, export, obviously infrastructure is going to need to be built, etc. How would you start to share with our audience what the investment climate could look like from foreign investment as you build this out? Is there appetite from Ukraine for this foreign investment within the cannabis industry, or what does that look like?
I would say that Ukraine has well, let's imagine there was no war. Yes, of course, Ukraine would be very attractive for everyone, and there will be less doubts, much less doubts at the moment. I perfectly understand that war is quite a challenge for everyone to think of Ukraine. But on the other hand, war is also a game changer in this area, because because I think that war and people suffering helped us to advocate this law through the parliament, and also made the market much bigger. Unfortunately, we have so many people suffering that I think this investment could be not only about business but also about helping Ukraine in this very hardship. So for me, working in medical cannabis area is like a charity, you know. On the one hand, you have a possibility to enter a big market. On the other hand, you have a possibility to help lots of people.
Yeah, it's so strange. It's like it's like there's a positive from such a negative, but it's just that it's a conundrum. But I think that's a very good way to put it. And I really like what you just said. So I think, you know, if you can leave the audience with the one thing about kind of the Ukraine medical market, let's pretend they didn't hear anything we just talked about. What would you leave them with?
I would leave them with our gratitude for attention to Ukraine, for thinking about Ukraine, and for us it's very important to be in this environment. Ukraine will win, and your help is essential for us.
I think I think Ukraine is truly lucky to have you as a steward, not only for the country but also for the industry. And I'm really happy that we had the opportunity to chat today. It was very, very interesting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Very, very interesting. I really appreciated the time.
Interesting for me as well. Yeah, it's very important.
Awesome, Olga. And where, you know, if anyone wants to kind of find you, follow you, you know, any social pages or anything like that you want to share, or anything like that?
Yeah, I do have a Facebook and Instagram page, and I was tagged by the conference. I think it's possible to find me easily. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll make sure, if you have any questions, make sure we reach out to Olga. And again, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.